Ese tipo de cosas que he dicho, cosas
Yes.
Attention.
El jueves,
Attention. Okay, so now we resume and we're going to now work on the environmental table. So now we look at environment. Now I want you to put on a very different hat from the economists. Not interested in money because the trees don't grow any faster if you throw money at them. As a friend of mine mentioned that at a conference. And investment in forests does not make the forest grow any faster. What the forests need is sunlight, water, soil nutrients, and so on. So what we're interested in now is two sets of things. One is questions about pollution and biodiversity, biodiversity loss, species lost, quantities of natural lands that are lost. We're also concerned about the use of our, what we call our fund of low entropy. These are non-renewable resources. So this is oil, coal, gas, and to what extent we interrupt the natural flows of air, natural flows of water, natural flows of soil replenishment, soil nutrient replenishment. In general, agriculture, when it is that man imposes himself or herself on nature and changes nature, this belongs in excitement. Things that are left alone, that we don't tamper with, this belongs in harmony. When we aggravate nature too much, when we pollute it, when we start to bring about ecosystem collapse, when it's stressed too much, when we harm nature, this belongs in discipline. Okay, bring me your statistics. What did you discover?
We
Yes.
have something.
Yeah.
In terms of pollution,
Mhm.
search for biological oxygen demand in surface waters.
Okay, oxygen,
Biological oxygen demand.
biological demand. Okay, biological oxygen demand in surface water.
Yes.
Okay,
So in the basin, 17.3. This is an average.
Yeah.
Very rough
Yeah,
estimate.
sure.
17.3 milligrams per liter.
Yeah.
Whereas in Jalisco, oh no, sorry, I'm so sorry. So in the basin is 24.66,
Okay,
whereas in Jalisco is 17.3.
okay, very good. All right, so that's a nice numerical figure. We have 24.66 versus what would be the average in Jalisco, which is 17.3. So because it's a problem, it's a pollution problem.
Yeah.
So it belongs in discipline. Since it's quite high, not quite twice as much, but very high, it's probably 0.8 or so. Could it be much more? Would it be possible? It could be worse. Okay. So maybe it's just 0.7 in that case. 0.7? Okay, now the angle. Is this towards excitement because it's human imposed? Right? It's because of our human activity that we have made this change.
You also interpreted excitement because it's very enhanced.
No, so the excitement is when we try to enhance the environment. So we cultivate a flower that is more beautiful. We make a beef cattle that produces more muscle.
Yeah.
We produce chickens that lay eggs more.
Yeah.
All of that is excitement. Here we're not trying to deprive the lake of oxygen because that's not trying to enhance nature. That's a problem that's due to our activity. Yeah. And because it's due to our activity, not a sort of natural failing, it belongs towards excitement. Good. Okay, so it's in discipline. It belongs towards excitement, so it's between 180 and 240.
Yeah.
So oxygen deprivation, because the plants are not getting, and the fish, etc., are not getting enough oxygen. There's not enough oxygen in the water. So this is quite a bad problem. And it is because it's due to humans, it belongs towards excitement. But it's a fairly basic measurement, for the water, for the quality of the water. So I would put it fairly close to the middle of discipline, because it really is depriving not only one particular species, but a lot of things. Yeah, and it will change the ecosystem, because certain plants can't grow and certain fish can't grow. So it's quite close to 180, maybe around 200 or so.
I put 190, but 200.
Okay, yeah, good. So it's around the same. Let's put 190. Is everyone in agreement with that? Okay, let's have another one. What about the person who is joining us remotely? What did?
No, they not saying anything.
Okay. Because you're a student, right? If you have a statistic, but it has to compare the Santiago River Basin to Jalisco province, and it's an environmental statistic. So to do with pollution, biodiversity, use of CO2 emissions, use of gasoline, anything like that, if you can find something. So what is another one?
Maybe consumption and water.
Say it again.
Consumption and water.
Llega hasta
Concession
hablar,
water,
¿no?
yeah.
Creo que ahí sale, ¿no?
So tell me what it is.
The thing is that it's compared Mexico and ecological region. So
Yeah, so now we've decided to compare the basin to Jalisco province.
Water quality is an environmental indicator.
Of course, of course. The environment is the soil, the rocks,
Okay. So I think we should look for some water quality.
This biological toxicity demand is based on parameter of water quality.
yeah, very important. Yeah. And very basic one. So yeah, so it has to do with the quality of the air, right? Because that's the environment. Has to do with the quality of the water. Has to do with the quality of the biomass. Is the biomass, are the birds reproducing properly? Are the insects reproducing properly? Are they moving in the right way? Migration patterns.
Protected natural areas.
Mhm.
In the basin.
Yeah.
There are a total of 10 protected natural areas in the basin, and of these, 4 are federal jurisdiction, sorry, and 1 belongs to the state.
Sí, es muy diferente.
5
Pero está
belongs
muerto
to the
en todos lados.
municipal.
O sea, ¿qué hay en cada lugar?
Okay, this doesn't tell me very much.
Toda la parte de
And at national level, there are
ahí en
182.
los terrenos orgánicos.
So maybe compared with the damage.
Okay, so the rest, so we have 10 protected areas.
Some
4 are federal, 1 belongs to the state, and the rest belong to
municipal.
municipal.
At national level, there are 182.
Yeah, but we're comparing to Jalisco province. Yes. So
Yeah, so in the whole state.
So we do actually want some data on the environment, because otherwise the environment, there'll be no policy recommendations concerning the environment. All we have is one statistic so far on oxygen.
Here they're commenting, Joel Garcia,
Yeah,
in the period between 2007 and 2018,
yeah,
74 penalties were imposed for residual discharges
okay.
to violations to Jalisco normative for 70 million pesos.
Okay, that's a economic statistic. So that really belongs to the economic compass. Because as I said, the birds are not going or the fish are not going to prosper just because you made a fine on some industry. The fish don't really care about the fine system. So you might well have put in some penalties, but the fish don't reproduce any better. They're not healthier as a result. Only indirectly, maybe. So that really belongs to the economics compass, and we've stopped doing that right now. So again, we want to find statistics to do with the environment. Yeah,
I think that I have one.
good.
These are the points of discharge. In red, wastewater.
Okay,
In Jalisco, there are 400 points.
okay,
And in the Santiago Basin, 305 points.
300.
5.
En toda la cuenca.
So 305 out of 400? So the rest of Jalisco only has 95?
Yes.
Wow.
But I mean, remember this is very important for our, not for the methodology, I understand, but for the project. This is the map of our project, this is the region of our project.
Yeah.
Right? It's different, the region of the project than the upper Santiago River Basin, than the Gran Santiago River. See? So this information you just gave is the whole Santiago River Basin.
Yes.
And the Santiago River Basin really starts in San Cristóbal de la Boca. Because if you see the picture of the Santiago River Basin, when it goes to the Pacific Ocean, it includes the state of Chihuahua, San Luis Potosí, so all the states that are in the they drain to the Santiago, to the lower Santiago River Basin. So when we talk about the Santiago River Basin, it's another thing. It's a huge thing in that part. So our interest is this part, which is the small part that comes from Chapala. So, you know, if we want to make a compass to our region while we're studying, the information, as Dr. Fred was saying, it should be of the municipalities that are included in this part of the basin, because this is what we are evaluating. So when you say this, probably, I don't know, I didn't hear the speaker, but I gather that most of those sanitation plants, or I don't know what you were saying.
It's a water discharge.
What is discharge? Probably they are in Nayarit or in.
This study is in Rio Grande, Santiago. There is all the Jalisco states and Nayarit.
Nayarit and all the river basin.
No, only those two states.
You know, that those are the two states that are where the river goes, but the outflows to the river come from other states.
Yes.
Here, Luis Guevara, he's a biologist, and he comments that 8 endemic species of fishes have been lost, and
Good.
17 are in high risk.
Okay, good. So that we can work with. Say it again. 8
Have been lost.
8 species of fish.
Mhm.
Wow. Have been lost. Yeah.
And 17 are in risk.
Okay. 17 are in risk. Okay. Does he have some idea about what the number of fish, what the number of fish species is?
44 identified species,
Okay.
and of those 13 are endemic.
Right. Okay. All right. So so this is a very interesting statistic. So I'll ask you to pay attention. We have 8 species of fish that have been lost. Let's separate those two things. 8 species that have been lost, and the 17 that are at risk, we will keep as a separate indicator.
How many are endemic?
13.
So we have
De las 3 endémicas ya se perdieron 8.
So we have 8 species of fish which have been lost out of 44 identified species in the rivers. So this is, and species lost for the environment is a very tragic thing because they cannot simply be replaced. We cannot simply reintroduce the species unless we find them in some other rivers and we can bring them over, but it's always very artificial. And sometimes they don't readapt in the same way. So even if we grow the fish in tanks and then we put them in artificially, sometimes that works and sometimes it does not work very well. So the risk, this species lost is very bad.
His source is, I imagine it's a book named Fish Community Composition of the Santiago River Basin, Mexico, during its early development.
Excuse me. So let's just concentrate on the number of fish species that are lost. This belongs to discipline. Excuse me. 8 species have been lost out of 44 species. What percentage is that? 8 out of 44.
Pero se va entonces a contar a partir de las especies en general o solo de las endémicas.
Of this area. So it's 8 out of 44. It's not 8 out of the whole of Mexico.
Yeah, but she's asking, the comparison is in comparison with the whole fish, existing fish in the basin.
Yes, which is 44. So it's 8 out of 44. What percentage is that?
But the endemics are different because endemics can
Migrate.
yeah. It doesn't that way. If we lost forever.
Yeah,
And I guess that it's different that 44 species in general, I guess, I don't know.
so you'll have to have a discussion with the biologist. I don't
I
know.
guess that is very different on a species, an endemic species.
Yeah,
It's much more important
of course, of course.
because we don't have that species in our parade.
That's right.
We can bring the
Yes, but even when you bring it, it doesn't, sometimes it works.
yeah,
Sometimes it doesn't even work.
of course, but.
But see, but this is very interesting because in Jalisco, they brought tilapia,
Yeah,
and tilapia is all over.
I know.
And then the endemic species, like the white, the
Yeah,
overlap of the white fish that used to be in Guadalajara, like
That's right.
Chapada was like the symbol of the fisheries.
Here
It's
is
gone.
Luis
Wait.
comments that 22 species of those are from Mexico, 7 are introduced and 2 translocated.
Okay.
Of the species, 22 are native from the native from this country. 7 are introduced and 2 translocated,
Translocated.
translocadas. O sea, 22 son nativas de aquí, 7 introducidas y 2 translocadas.
¿Y cuál es la diferencia entre la segunda y la tercera? Pregúntale.
Si me escucha Luis, ¿cuál es la diferencia que están preguntando?
And of the 8 that were lost, are they endemic or are they brought in ones or are they?
22 are from here and 7 are introduced.
No, but of the ones that were lost, there's 8 species that were lost.
Eran nativas.
They're native ones. Okay, listen.
A ver,
This is adults.
adelante.
Sí,
The 8 species. Okay.
sí, hola a todos. Sí, la diferencia es que 22 de esas especies son nativas de México. Se pueden encontrar en cualquier lugar de México, pero 7 de ellas, de las 22 que son de las 22, hay 22 nativas que son nativas de México, pero también se registraron en la cuenca del río 7 especies introducidas, obviamente entre ellos la tilapia, ¿no? Ahora, la diferencia entre estas y las traslocadas, es decir, vienen de otra región, pero se integraron. No son introducidas, pero no son nativas del río Santiago. Son de otras localidades de la región, pero no existían en la cuenca del río Santiago. Por eso son traslocadas o reubicadas. Creo que sería más sencillo el comentario. Entonces, de las perdidas fueron el 18.18%, lo que preguntaba la doctora Friend.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is so we have we're talking about risk afterwards, but there's 8 species of fish that have been lost out of 44, and many of them are species that you only find here. So this is lost forever. So this is very, very bad for the environment because it changes the ecosystem. Because these species were part of the ecosystem and they fulfilled certain functions. Those functions are being replaced by invasive species. So this is what we call ecosystem collapse. There's a direction to ecosystem collapse. So this is very, very bad. We could lose more species. In fact, we will lose more species because that's what happens when an ecosystem starts to collapse, is that this triggers problems in other areas as well. Certain plant life will change, and so on. So we're on a, what we call a downward spiral in the ecosystem. But we want to leave, so I'm thinking about the length of the arrow now. We want to leave some room because it's going to get worse. So we can't put 9, right? Because otherwise the only wiggle room we have is to make it 10. But it's still very grave. So maybe we should make it 0.8. Is everyone in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about the angle. So we're in discipline. This is caused by humans. It's caused by pollution. It's one of the indicators of pollution problems that we're killing off the species. So since it is because of us, the angle will be between 180 and 240. It's very grave for the environment.
One
Yes.
question, the fact that you place all of the exercise that we did today, all the examples started in the middle, is that the way it should be, or is just because the type of information that you get?
See?
I don't understand.
We started, when we had the economic data,
Yeah.
we started in the middle of the practice, all of them, and then we moved it when wherever.
Yeah, it's just a way of thinking about it. So it's just a way of deciding on the angle.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's somewhere between 240 and 120. So then we try to narrow it down rather than say it's between, because it's too wide to say between 120 and 240. So then we try to be more specific. So one way of being more specific is what's the halfway point? The halfway point is 180.
Okay.
Now, because it's humans that have caused the problem, we put it towards excitement because it's related to our activity. It's related to our industry. It's related to our agriculture. And therefore, it belongs between 180 and 240. But since it's very, very bad for the environment, it belongs very close to 180. Because this is a downward spiral for the ecosystem.
And another question, if it's getting more normalized, shouldn't it be a little bit like happy?
That's right. So once the ecosystem renormalizes, right? Once it becomes a new ecosystem because there's different biodiversity. Once it stabilizes, then it will go back towards harmony. But it's not stable now. We're losing species. We have a bunch we have 17 that are in danger of extinction, which means that it's not stable. If they were not in danger of extinction, it would be close to harmony, you see. So we've got this loss, and we have a whole bunch that are in danger of extinction. So the ecosystem is changing now. It's not stable. As I said, when it does stabilize, it will go more towards harmony. Yeah. Okay. So since it's pretty bad, I would put it maybe at about 190 or so.
Yeah. Maybe more. 200.
Well, 200 means it's closer towards excitement.
It's more.
We're talking about the angle now.
Yeah.
So-
I said 200 because I was thinking about that we are making a big change in the extinction.
Yes.
We are transforming the environment, so I thought it would be a little closer to it to be enthusiastic.
Yes, but don't talk about us.
Yeah.
Talk about the trees and the fishes.
Okay.
The fishes they're suffering, they're dying. So the fishes, they don't care whether you're excited or not.
But they are transforming. But
They're changing, and it's because of human interference.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't care whether we're enthusiastic about that or not.
Yeah.
they're done. So this is something that really belongs in discipline, very close to 180 because it's simply bad. When we talk about ecosystem collapse, this is, there's a direction to the collapse for the ecosystem.
So the collapse just became right in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then because it's human induced, we give it a little bit of movement towards excitement, not very much. Because it's really the strength, the qualitative strength is towards real discipline. We have death. We have species extinction.
So yeah, it's totally fine. It's 180.
Yeah. So these discussions, and then now let's talk about 17 species are at risk. Out of 44 identified species. Does our biologist agree?
He says, you lose genetic wealth
Right,
and
good,
provoke the extinction vortex,
good,
habitat degradation and habitat destruction, the main pressure because the main industrial activities.
good, exactly right. So we seem to be all in accordance with this. Now 17 species are at risk of extinction. Risk of extinction, which means that we're now moving again towards collapse, right? And probably most of them are
61.53% of endemic species are lost.
in where?
A ver si ahorita contesta.
In the
Santiago Basin.
61% are lost.
In the Santiago Basin.
Now, okay, what's the difference between that and saying that 8 species have been lost out of 44? Is that the same idea?
I think.
Yes. So that's, yeah, 64%, that's right. So that's the same statistic, so we don't double up on the statistic.
13 son endémicas. 13 are endemic.
Out of the 17 that are at risk?
Of the 13 endemic, 8 have been lost.
Right. Okay, so now we're concentrating on another one, which is
And the total in the basin are 44.
right. So now we concentrate on the idea that 17 are at risk of being lost. So again, this is very serious. This is 17 out of 44. What percentage is that? 17 out of 44, it's about halfway. Less than halfway.
35?
35,
approximately?
yeah. Or maybe 40% or so. So we're losing about 40%, or we're in the midst of starting to lose about 40% of these species. That's pretty bad. Okay. So, but it would be possible to lose all of them. So I suggest that the length should be about 45.45. So that's the length of the arrow. Yeah.
It's in respect of my data,
Mhm.
I find that it's correct that 305 are the points of wastewater in only Jalisco,
Okay.
the basin.
Okay, let's return to that statistic a bit later, because
Yes.
right now we're dealing with the species that are that might become extinct.
Okay.
Well, that's good. Thank you for making sure that it was right, and we'll return to that in a moment. Okay, so we have 0.45 as the length, and now we want to decide on the angle. Again, we have this risk of species, a lot of species that So this is part of discipline. This is part of ecosystem collapse. So this is 180. It's due to humans again. So maybe we should again put it at 190 degrees. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's the same problem, right? And it's only going to get worse. Okay, now you had one on water discharge points.
Yes.
So the points of discharge of wastewater are 400 in Jalisco.
The points of control wastewater in the Santiago Basin, but only in Jalisco State, are 305.
Okay. All right, so this is points of discharge of wastewater are 400 in Jalisco, and in the Santiago Basin, it's 305. So most of the wastewater is discharged in the Santiago River Basin.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so does that belong in discipline, in harmony, or in excitement? If you're a fish, you're going along in the river basin, and oh, this is waste discharge. Ooh, that's not so nice.
I think he's in disaster.
Yeah, it's in disaster, so it's in discipline also, I think. I mean, the fish don't like this very much. Okay. Now, what is the length? We have 3. Now, is this treated water or is it untreated?
Untreated.
Untreated.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have 3. So we just have a lot of wastewater that's just poured into the river.
Yes.
And it's more than it's 305 to 400, so it's about 80% of what is discharged into the water.
Mhm.
So it's probably 0.8 would be the length. And then the angle. So again, we're in discipline. This is pollution that we are putting into the water that harms the life in the water. It's us who do it, and therefore maybe again it goes around 190. It's just something that we're doing. It's us who do it, so it belongs towards excitement, but it's not exactly improving things. Okay. Another statistic. Yes.
So we have here the number of otters.
Okay, good.
So in the basin, we
Yeah.
have 0.9 per square kilometer, whereas in Jalisco, we have 2.25 per square kilometer.
In Jalisco, you have how many?
2.25.
Okay, good. So we have 0.9 versus in Jalisco, and we have 0.9 in Jalisco, and we have only 2.25 per square kilometer.
We have 0.9 in the basin and 2.25 in Jalisco.
0.9 in the basin. But they tend to be water type animals, don't they? So they're naturally going to be towards the river.
Yeah, but you also have to no sobre el río Santiago, sino los afluentes del río Verde, que son parte de la cuenca. And all the flows which are part of the basin,
Okay,
they can also be distributed, not sobre el río Santiago, not over the Santiago.
okay. So this is in river areas, not in the middle of the desert. You don't find an otter.
Yeah.
Okay, so number of otters, 9 per square kilometer in Jalisco and 2.25 per square kilometer in Santiago River Basin area.
And we have 0.9.
Right.
And 2.25.
So there's a lot more in Jalisco. No, a lot more in the basin. You have more than twice as many in the basin. Is that
Yeah.
right? Right. Okay, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they're natural species and they seem to be doing quite well.
Well, they like to be distributed better, right? The distribution of the ulcers, yes, is mostly located, or there's a large extension of those ulcers in the basin.
Right.
Hay una buena población en las reservas naturales y que naturalmente van a otros afluentes, pero no significa que perseveren o que sean residentes, sino que transitan en esas zonas, en el estiaje.
That's the area where they transit. Doesn't really persist.
Okay, so they don't stay there for
Yeah.
a long time. Okay. But it sounds as though it's a natural thing, right? So it belongs in harmony. Yeah.
Aunque ha disminuido su población hasta la actualidad.
They are endangered.
Es que, o sea, el dato es como que hay una nutria por kilómetro cuadrado, pero eso no lo quita. Es un animal en peligro de extinción porque su población era mayor.
Okay, so
They are in danger.
they're in danger
They are
of being
in danger.
extinct.
Yeah,
Okay.
and their population were even more in the past. I don't
Okay.
know if
So you see, this is also very important to understand the reason for the statistic, to know the history. Because when we make policy recommendations, we want to know what are the underlying reasons. What's the whole story? And we're already pulling out that whole story. So this is very good. That this is an endangered species, but they happen to be managing better in the Santiago River Basin area than the rest of Jalisco province. They're migrating, they move around in the way that they should.
Here, Luis and Joel are sharing the same data. They say, the Mexican Institute of Water Technology, in its analysis of the study of the water quality of the Rio Santiago, revealed the presence of 1,090 chemical substances in the channel and its tributaries. These include carcinogenic, semi-volatile, and volatile organic compounds.
Okay, so let's deal with that separately. Right now, we're talking about otters.
Okay.
So let's just discuss the otters for a moment. So they're in harmony, but they're in risk of extinction.
Yeah, they are in risk. Yeah, you can understand now a bit more. So they're in risk of extinction, but for instance, in Jalisco, the average is 2.25 ulcers per square kilometer. Whereas in the basin, it's going to be 0.9. So either you will find 1 per square kilometer or you will not find.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's worse in the area of the basin. Because in Jalisco, we're considering natural reserves, I mean, natural areas. No one doesn't consider just the natural protected area.
Yeah, so Jalisco considers the natural protected area, so that's why you're gonna find more.
Yeah.
125, whereas in the area of the basin, it's limited, more limited.
But you have,
Other basin that you will find.
So if you need
Eso
to-
ya están en todo el mapa de atrás. En todo el mapa había una población de nutrias y actualmente está su territorio más pequeño que se ha ido solo a Guaynamota, Bolaños, Chipila, se ha ido reduciendo su territorio a donde estaban.
So before,
Se han ido resguardando.
yeah, so they have been, the area of occurrence has been diminished.
okay,
Yeah, to the natural protected areas.
okay, okay. So, all right, so in that case, should it belong to discipline? Because you're really talking about stress on the ecosystem. Okay. So this is also a discipline. Now, what about the length? How long will it take for them to become extinct? Are they very close to extinction or?
Están en rojo, it's like an alert.
Okay, okay. So maybe we put it at 0.6 or something? And then the question is, what about the angle? So you said that what we're doing is we're diminishing the space that they're allowed to be in, or we're becoming more and more hostile. So again, this is humans that are doing it. And we're making the species grow in smaller and smaller areas. We're constricting the space. So as we do that, the angle is going to start to change. It's going to go more and more and more towards 180 degrees. So maybe we should again put it around 190, maybe 200 or something. Yeah. Maybe 200, because we want to give it a bit of space. Okay, good. Now we have one about quite specific things about exactly what what we find in the rivers, the pollutants. Can you read maybe what the comments were? So we've got only discipline in the environment. We need some excitement. So excitement again is things like agriculture. There's got to be some statistics about agriculture. And there have to be some things that we've left alone. So let's do the one more about pollutants in the river. That's quite specific. So choose one of those chemicals, not all of them together.
A ver si se me lo. A ver, después.
Yeah.
Can you ask them?
Yeah, could you had some very nice statistics about percentages of mercury and other things, I think, in the river. So maybe you could choose one of those, because each one is a separate statistic, right? So choose one of those and we'll do an analysis of that.
Let's see.
Okay. Okay, now something about agriculture or something.
¿Ya lo consiguió?
Sí.
I thought that from time to time.
Has he found something?
They're asking between them.
Okay. Just one, it's just a methodological thing. So just find one, and then you could apply the same methodology to the other indicators as well. Just choose one arbitrarily.
Concentration or acceptable levels with the norm.
So the concentration of,
He's asking concentration or acceptable levels.
well, that's what we want to compare, right? Is the concentration higher than what is acceptable? Or is it, so acceptable, that will have to do with the length. So if it's acceptable, then it's going to be between normal and low. If it's not acceptable, then it's between 5 and 10, 0.5 and 10 and 1. So that has to do with the length. But you have to give us what the concentration is before we can determine whether or not the concentration is acceptable.
And also that question wasn't for us. It was between them.
Okay, all right. So anyway, so there, yes.
They're looking for the information.
Okay, all right. So while they look for the information, yes,
So we have here another data,
yeah,
has to do with
Vale.
land use area.
yes, good.
For instance, for
¿Por
agriculture
qué?
Yeah,
in the basin,
yeah,
¿Le mando otra vez el enlace?
I can give the difference from 2007, no, 2002 and 2007. Or we just,
yeah. We don't want to compare over time. We're really comparing Santiago River Basin to Jalisco Province.
yeah, I know, but should I? Okay, I'm gonna give the extension in 2007,
Okay,
the land use agriculture.
sure.
So it has been 458,000 hectares
Yeah,
in the basin, whereas in Jalisco, is 2,600,098 hectares.
okay. Now, that by itself doesn't tell us enough. Because then I would have to know how many hectares are even possible. Because these are different
Okay.
areas, right?
Yeah, well, I have the land of agriculture vegetation woods
So what's more important is what's maybe the percentage.
as a percentage.
You see how, that it's that 40% of the land in the basin is used for agriculture, whereas for whole of Jalisco, it's only 20%. Something like that is interesting.
Look, can I comment on that for what you were saying?
Yeah.
Look, this map illustrates very well the problem. Look, what we are dealing with is only from here to here, this part.
Yeah,
From here to there, all that is the Santiago River Basin.
right.
So this is the upper Santiago River Basin. So if you say agricultural land in the river basin, well, that you're taking into consideration all that. But if you say the upper Santiago River, which is the map that I showed you before, that we showed you, is this part here.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have to be very careful about our data and what it is that we're comparing to, because otherwise we lose in accuracy and we get a distortion. We suddenly think, oh my goodness, there's a lot of land that's used for agriculture when there isn't really. Okay.
El otro mapa,
In
el otro
the
mapa
other
de
map,
el de Griselda,
Ah, el de Griselda.
el de Cindy.
Es hydrology.
El de Cindy, ese es el de Griselda.
¿Cuál mapa?
El de Macule, el de Cindy, ¿no?
Ah, el primero, ese.
Ahora fíjense, el primero verde,
El verde.
¿Dónde está? No, ese no es.
No, no, ese no es.
El primerito que pusiste. Donde está-
Este es-
Tiene la comisión municipal.
es que son tres cosas. Uno es ese grandote, es toda la cuenca.
¿Sabes que no está ahí?
Luego el
Lo
segundo
observaste.
es
Déjame te lo descargo.
el que enseñó Griselda, que es el de la cuenca alta. Y luego está el que hizo Cindy Macule, que es el del área de estudio. Porque el área de estudio es más pequeña que la cuenca alta. Pero no estamos nosotros para el ejercicio de Michelle, estamos concentrándonos en la cuenca alta. O sea, en los 35 municipios que conforman la cuenca alta del río Central.
El dato solo el dato que está diciendo Bessie corresponde a la central.
A la cuenca alta. Aunque para el proyecto se sale, porque hay municipios que trascienden el área de estudio.
Corresponde a esa zona.
Esa,
A lo que está en verde.
Bueno, eso no es eso no es la cuenca, eso es un pedazo. Falta.
Es que doctor, yo creo que nos hizo falta esa parte de saber cuáles municipios eran los que
Claro.
se integraban.
Sí, bueno, es que lo que digo, la cuenca alta de Santiago son 35 municipios. O sea, son cachos de municipios, ¿no? Porque la cuenca
Sí,
no
sí.
corresponde a la administración, es un tema de test, ¿no?
Pero ¿cómo se están generando los datos a partir del municipio, no?
Así es. Entonces, exacto, in an accurate compass,
Yeah.
we needed, it's not,
¿Compartirles un mapa?
perdón.
¿Podemos compartirles un mapa aquí hecho?
Claro, claro.
Sí, pásaselo a Abigail para que lo vea.
In a more accurate compass, we should be able to differentiate the data within the municipalities that are part of the basin, because a municipality is bigger than the share that the space it shares with the basin, because the administrative region of the municipality is bigger than it shares, that the part that it shares with the basin. So if you are, for example, bringing the example of agricultural frontier, if you give us some data on that, probably that data is about a zone that is not part of the basin, but it might be part of the municipality. So this is very, very.
We have to be very careful.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right.
La-
We have to compare like to like. So
Te voy a pasar
we
otra.
decided to
otra
compare the
gráfica.
Santiago
Está
River
hablando.
Basin to Jalisco province. We can also make other comparisons. This municipality to the
Gracias.
Santiago River Basin, but then we have separate compasses, right? So we make one for a municipality. So what we're interested in is policy decision making, right? Don't lose focus. But if you're a decision maker, then should you concentrate maybe on this municipality and not that one? And for that, we would need separate compasses. But at this workshop, all we're dealing with is the methodology. And then make as many compasses as you want at whatever scale you want. I don't mind. But right now, we're just working on how to make a compass at all. Okay, go.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask how much you said
Es una que se
was
llama
used
concentraciones.
for agriculture,
For the basin.
for the basic, the bulk, because I don't know if I have to say that. Because he said that in the basin region, it's 45% occupied by the.
Maybe you can give the percentage because I don't have the percentage.
Yeah, but it got my attention that for whole Jalisco, the government said it's 26% use of land for
Okay.
agriculture.
So 45% in the river basin area, 25% in
Yeah.
Jalisco province. Okay.
This graphic in the screen is shared by Joel.
Uh-huh.
It's about heavy metals present in the basin.
Okay, just a moment,
Mhm.
because I can't deal with two at the
Yes,
same
yes.
time.
What do you mean you can?
Ahora lo estamos variando.
Tienes una habilidad femenina, ¿verdad? Todas las
Okay, so let's just talk about agriculture. So agriculture belongs to excitement. Because this is us Okay, now, it sounds as though there's a lot of agriculture, a lot more agriculture in the Santiago River Basin area than there is in the rest of Jalisco. In fact, there's a sort of concentration of that. This is very normal. Why? Because there's a river, which means that you have water available. You have water available to irrigate crops, and it tends to be more fertile area. And furthermore, there's a place for waste to go. So that's very normal for a river basin. That agricultural land has probably been agricultural for a fairly long time, I'm guessing. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the process is more changing the type of exploitation.
Right,
But the
right. So
I don't know.
only-
I don't know if you have an idea if there has been an expansion of the agricultural frontier in Jalisco, like new hectares added to the agricultural production, rather than the transformation of the type of production that they do in the land that there is already. in
Yeah,
production.
the type of use is a very separate set of statistics, and they're very interesting because the more artificial that you have greenhouses, that you use lots of pesticides, you use lots of herbicides, you use genetically modified crops, all of that goes towards discipline. So the angle is very different. If you're talking about more traditional farming methods that have been around for a long time, then that is an excitement, but very close to harmony. So the angle changes very dramatically with the type of agriculture. But right now, the only statistic I have is over amount of land use. That's for agriculture. I'm guessing that the amount has not changed very significantly.
Salud. Salud.
Well, I think that there has been a change. I'm thinking about this part of where you go towards Manzanillo in the highway, in the lake, la laguna, ¿cómo se llama? Las secas? De Sayula. All this thing is agricultural change of land. Exactly. So also, because this is where, for example, the forest of the trees that they use for the equipales, they produce so many equipales that this forest is gone. And so those trees are no longer there. And what they're doing is they're changing the use of land from forestry to agriculture. All this part of Sayula, the same process. Zacualco. The same thing is happening towards the sugar cane production to Tala. All this was used to be jungle, forest, and now is sugar cane, and maize production. So if you look at a map, probably you could see a change in an expansion of the agricultural land in those regions of the state.
Okay.
What I'm not sure is that the same thing is happening in the basin, because there is no more space in the
No,
basin.
that's right, that's right. And that's why I thought it was fairly stable.
Mhm.
Are they saying that more than agriculture, but it's cultivating again?
Ah, claro.
Yeah.
The tequila industry in the highlands, that's right. But this is a process that has been going on for the last 40 years, no? Or 50 years. The transformation from agriculture to tequila is what, the 40 years?
But I'm not talking about type of species yet, right? I don't have no statistics on that. I'm only talking about the agricultural, percentage of the land. Then it's separate statistics to talk about particular types of crop and how they're changing. Yeah.
About how Jalisco is a principal food producer.
Right.
So I don't know if it's produced
Me encontré
in
una
the
tesis muy
basin
buena
area.
sobre lo del
No, not
fermentar
careful.
tequila.
So
Y
agriculture
ahí
is not
explicaba
only
de
about food
proceso, pues
production.
nomás no le he leído
But
el
it's-
tipo, pero
It's
parece que
also
vienen los datos.
for
Es del Instituto Tecnológico de San Luis.
right? So this is a separate statistic.
Yeah.
It's about type of, what is the type of agriculture?
Yeah, they were saying they grow maguey, and I don't know if they produce a lot of food in that region too,
In which region?
in the basin area.
Like where?
I'm only, look, we're not interested in particular crops or what they're used for. I'm only, look, all I need to do to make a compass right now is to find out the length and the angle for this one statistic for now, which is the agriculture is 45% in the river basin area versus 22% in Jalisco province. That's all. I'm not interested in what type, etc. Now I need to have an idea of a length and I need to have an idea of the angle. So let's concentrate on that and not talk about changes. Those are separate statistics. Okay. Now, length. So there's quite a lot of agriculture in the Santiago River Basin area compared to the rest of Jalisco province. All right, it's 45% versus 22% is agricultural.
26%.
Here, Luis comments about this. The pollution level of Santiago River is out of the permit level for irrigation to agriculture. So the surface of agriculture is lost because lack of irrigation.
Okay, so that has to do with the change, right? Or is that, okay, so those, again, changes are a separate statistic, right? Whether or not something is changing or why it's changing has to do with the underlying reasons for a particular statistic. Right now, I still have to decide on, otherwise I don't use the statistic at all. But right now, what we need to do is decide if we want to use the statistic that the concentration of agricultural land is 45% of the Santiago River Basin area versus 26% you said in Jalisco province.
Could be the loss of surface because the lack of irrigation.
But that's
Well, I
about
think-
loss.
Yeah.
Loss is a change. Change is not what we're talking about. We're just talking about amount of hectares. Now, as the number of hectares changes, we will see the arrow change. But given the present, we have, so I just need, because then we can see what happens with the other statistics and how they influence this statistic. But we still need to decide on this statistic. Otherwise, we're just fumbling around talking about lots of different things. Yes.
Maybe the length could be like 0.3.
Okay, so why?
Because we said that the normal should be the Jalisco,
Right,
the
good,
reference. And
good.
Since it is low,
Well, no, it's very high.
it's very high, that's true, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it should be.
So it's not the dynamic of the change, only the
No,
proportion.
the dynamic of the change you see as the indicator arrows move. They either move in quality or they move in length.
So the question, okay, so the question is if the amount, fixed amount in regarding.
Right
the-
now, and then what we do is we monitor that
Okay,
statistic.
so I think it's,
So we monitor it and we watch the length change.
so I think it's appropriate. In the basin, my idea, my vision is that we have a relatively low percentage of agricultural land in relation with the rest of the state.
Oh, well,
Because-
that seems to be the opposite of what the statistic says, which is that the concentration of agriculture is 45% of the
Of
land
the land here.
compared to Jalisco province, which is only 26%. So
Well,
there's
Yeah.
per
Yeah.
square kilometer, there's a lot more agricultural land
Probably, yeah.
in the river basin.
But I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know the figure, I'm thinking like the traditional agricultural areas of the state of Jalisco in the northern part, where outside the basin, you know. So all these parts in the north, and this is all agricultural land. And in the basin, that's at least what I thought, probably I'm wrong, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not a good statistic. Maybe it's not actually showing what's really going on. I don't know.
Yeah, the logic tells me that as the basin is the heart of the industrial area.
Yeah,
So there's only one big distrito de riego, irrigation district in the basins,
Right.
the 23 that is in Poncitlán. And this is a huge one, but it's only one. And the rest is industrial and urban areas. So this chunk of agricultural land, which is Ocotlán, Poncitlán, this part in the north, where we are going to work. If you relate that proportion to the rest of the state, the logic tells me that it is bigger the outside than inside. That's what I thought,
Okay.
but probably I'm
Okay.
wrong because that's.
So maybe we want to check the statistic. So this is important because sometimes, because maybe the statistic is how much money they get off of agriculture, right? Rather than the actual hectares.
Exactly.
And they might not be counting the little farmer who does something sort of on his plot and is not actually getting revenue from
Well,
it.
that's what I was asking, how many.
So that's a different
Uh-huh.
statistic. That's a
So
different.
the question is, all these people that live outside the Santiago Basin River, Upper Santiago.
All right.
What are they
so-
doing?
Okay, so we don't need, because we don't want to spend forever on this one, we're just dealing with one here. So let's try and wrap it up a bit. So the concentration of agriculture, let's say, paying industrial agriculture, maybe it's industrial agriculture. Yeah, maybe that makes more sense. And maybe it wasn't specified in the sources. So this is so I put a question mark with this one because we have to find out what's really going on.
It's just like agriculture.
Yeah, I know, but we're putting a question to this, okay? Industrial question mark, concentration of industrial agriculture seems to be 45% versus 26% in Jalisco. What do we give that as a length?
0.8.
0.8, okay, thank you. And what do we do for the angle? Now, we don't have any idea about, but it's industrial. We decided it's probably industrial agriculture, which probably means it's pretty close to discipline because it tends to be pretty intensive and it has to pay itself back, right? And it's not humans that are digging the trenches and stuff. It's big machinery. We have greenhouses and we have cattle that are raised, given hormones, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an excitement. It's towards discipline, but we're enhancing nature because we're growing things. But we don't have any idea about the type, really, except that we know that if it's industrial, then it's probably fairly harmful to the environment. So it's between 300 and 240. I don't know, 280, because we don't know of the type. Now, when we do separate statistics on greenhouses, on, I don't know, plantations that require a lot of pesticides, plantation that requires a lot of herbicides, plantation that requires a lot of irrigation. We would want all of those separate statistics, and they will reinforce this one. They will shape it. They will tell us something about it. They will move it a little bit. But right now we don't have very much information. But now we also know, where do we want to go? What more information do we need? We need more specific information, which is not hard to find. You take a Google Maps, you can see that's a strawberry field. That is a maize field. This is where they're raising cattle. It's not rocket science, but we can find that out. And then we can find out how much pesticides, how many herbicides, how much fertilizer, how many hormones, etc. are being used. So we decided to put this between 300 and 240, maybe at 250, 270 or so, because we don't know. 270. All right. It's already past 1 o'clock.
We can use the room until 2.
Pardon?
We have the room for until 2
For a
o'clock.
little bit longer? Okay,
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
Then you will end.